Hello, everyone. My name is Russell Romeo, and today I'll be discussing virtual leadership and communication. In this presentation, we'll examine leadership theories and the best practices through the lens of academic research and a biblical worldview. And more specifically, we'll be tackling these topics through the lens of a virtual workplace environment. Virtual leadership is transforming how organizations operate. Leadership effectiveness in remote team depends on trust building, adaptability, and engagement, and these themes you'll see throughout this presentation. With teams working across different time zones and digital platforms, leadership today looks very different than it does in the traditional office settings, and this definitely could be true if you have gone through the 2020 pandemic and seen the difference coming on the outside of that pandemic in the workplace. With that being said, the Bible teaches us that wise leadership is essential for stability and success. We'll be looking at Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, which encourages us to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, and all your way acknowledge Him, and He will make straight your paths. Leading in a digital world requires wisdom, strategy, and intentional communication to the team. This presentation, again, will examine different leadership styles, explore how technology mediates leadership interactions, and discuss biblical insights that enhance leadership success in the virtual environment. Let's first take a look at how virtual teams differ from those of the traditional office-based teams. These virtual teams differ from the traditional teams in many fundamental ways. Research defines virtual teams as those teams with dispersed employees which are connected and communicate through digital technologies. These virtual teams often face challenges such as time zone differences, trust-building difficulties, and reduced informal communication. However, virtual teams also provide significant advantages, including cost savings, greater autonomy, and increased creativity amongst the team. Leaders of virtual teams must proactively address the challenges and take advantage of the advantages listed by fostering clearer communication, having trust-building initiatives in order to build trust among the team, and have structured engagement strategies to make sure the team stays engaged. As a leader who follows Christ, we can look to Ecclesiastes 4:9, which states two are better than one because they have a good reward for their toil. This reminds us that leaders must cultivate unity and collaboration among the team, and this will ensure virtual teams operate more efficiently and effectively. Leadership styles can heavily influence virtual teams' dynamics and outcomes, much like they do a traditional team's dynamics and outcomes. Research often categorizes leadership styles into three distinct styles. Transactional leadership focuses on a goal setting and a structured efficiency style of leading the team, which this will ensure performance and productivity by maintaining performance-based rewards and clear guidelines. On the other hand, transformational leadership tends to foster motivation and innovation, cultivating inspiration and engagement among employees in order to be effective. Then we have laissez-faire leadership, and this is the hands-off approach that encourages autonomy and self-direction among a team. Now, in a virtual team setting, this can enhance creativity and take advantage of that. However, leaders must need to realize that this may lead to disengagement if guidance is lacking. Regardless of leadership style one falls into, we can look to Colossians 3:23, which reminds us, whatever you do, work heartily and for the Lord and not for men. Effective virtual leadership, whether it's transactional, transformational, or you go the laissez-faire approach, must be rooted in integrity, wisdom, and servanthood. E-leadership refers to the evolution of leadership within the digital workplace. Research has explored how information technology has reshaped the leadership's interactions within their teams. It has explored how leaders are required to develop strong digital proficiency in order to effectively communicate with the remote teams to keep them engaged. Virtual leaders often use project management software, video conferencing platforms, and other cloud-based collaboration tools that are meant to enhance productivity among the team. However, overuse of digital communication can lead to burnout and disengagement of the team and the team members individually, which then can lead to less efficient remote teams. Leaders who lead remote teams must mitigate by having a structured communication practice in place. And it doesn't matter which leadership style this is true for all leadership styles. Now let's take a deeper dive into transformational leadership in the virtual work environment. Transformational leaders can be particularly effective in the virtual workplace as long as they enhance 4 particular communication skills. These skills that they need to enhance are their oral or verbal skills, their nonverbal skills, their listening skills, and of particular importance, their written communication skills. Virtual leaders must adapt their digital communication strategies to engage their teams through video conferencing software, instant messaging software, and other collaborative tools in the digital realm. However, leaders must also guard against the narcissistic leadership tendencies that come with transformational leadership, ensuring they serve their teams rather than seek personal validation. This is highlighted in Philippians 2:3, which states, "Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves." This is a reminder that transformational leaders must think of others, not just of themselves. And by doing so, they can create high-performing virtual teams by focusing on that authentic engagement, and that will build trust, and they'll also be serving from more a servant's heart. Another concept that we can look for in terms of creating a more effective and efficient virtual team is the idea of employee advocacy. For this, we can look to servant leadership. Servant leadership is a powerful approach that strengthens trust and communication among the team members and across the organization, regardless if it's traditional or virtual. Servant leaders can help build organizational effectiveness, and they do this by prioritizing employee empowerment, ethical leadership standards, and transparent communication. Servant leadership and leaders foster a culture and environment where employees feel valued, heard, and supported. This leads to greater engagement and ultimately greater advocacy of those employees and the idea that they have that advocacy for themselves and their workplace. Servant leaders who actively listen, provide guidance, and maintain openness create a healthy work environment that ends up promoting long-term organizational success by building in the idea of employee advocacy. Servant leadership itself is a biblical principle. After all, Jesus set the ultimate example of what a servant leader is. Philippians 2:3 and 4 states that leaders should serve others with humility. And by taking this faith-driven leadership approach, this will ultimately strengthen the workplace culture by providing that openness, the values, and that the employees feel heard, which again will increase that ability for them to have the advocacy to do what's right for them and the organization that they see fit. So how do all these leadership styles interact with each other? Leadership effectiveness is highly dependent on situational circumstances, requiring leaders to assess their team structure, communication channels, and the team's overall objectives. Transactional and transformational leadership styles should not be viewed as a mutually exclusive, but rather as complementary approaches that can be strategically integrated within virtual teams. Transactional leadership provides structure, direction, and performance-based guidelines, whereas transformational leadership enhances motivation, engagement, and adaptability among remote employees. In virtual settings, striking the right balance between these two leadership approaches ensures that employees have both the clear expectations and a sense of purpose. And we add in the idea of servant leadership, which builds up employee advocacy and where they feel they are heard and cared for. This can definitely lead to a more effective virtual team and work environment. Transactional leaders may be more effective when managing routine administrative tasks in the remote environment, while transformational leadership fosters innovation and collaboration on other complex projects, and we can use servant leadership to tie both of those again together by ensuring that employees are heard and they have that advocacy built in for them. As we have discussed through this presentation, virtual leadership presents several challenges that traditional leaders may not encounter. An article by Gross from 2018 emphasizes trust building as a primary concern in remote workplaces, where leaders must overcome barriers such as miscommunication, limited face-to-face interactions, and employee disengagement. Virtual teams, by their nature, lack the physical proximity, which can create feelings of isolation, can create misunderstandings due to textual ambiguity, and reduced informal interaction among colleagues. To address these challenges, leaders must focus on intentional trust-building strategies, such as a consistent communication, structured digital engagement, and open-door policies for virtual employee support. Successful remote leadership requires adaptability, and leaders must actively work toward fostering a sense of community, connections, and a shared purpose in their digital workplaces, regardless of which leadership style a leader chooses to follow. Biblical value integration can be crucial to leadership style. Having faith-based leadership practices can strengthen workplace relationships by providing that moral and ethical leadership guidance. It also will encourage servant leadership principles to be used in the workplace. Leading through biblical values will also foster a culture of trust and engagement, which all of this will lead to the increased effectiveness and well-being of virtual teams. As one can see through the short exploration of leadership styles and how they affect the virtual work environment, virtual leadership is an evolving field. This requires continued study on the best practices, challenges, and strategies for improvement. Research has emphasized the importance of interdisciplinary research, which explores leadership effectiveness through organizational behavior, technological mediation, and leadership theory. Research also stresses the need for more in-depth research on diversity, adaptability, and employee perception within a virtual work environment. Also, future research should delve into areas such as emotional intelligence and virtual leadership, cross-cultural communication in digital teams, and the long-term impact of remote management on workplace morale. As organizations continue to embrace virtual and hybrid models, leadership strategies will continue to be evolving, and it's important that, as researchers, we meet the needs of the diverse, globally connected teams that exist. Isaiah 58:11 states, "The Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your desire in scorched places." As virtual leadership advances, leaders must also remain open to learning, growth, and refinement through faith-based and ethical driven principles, and research should also explore these fields as well. Virtual leadership is complex yet is essential in today's workforce. Through this presentation, you can see how research has provided insight into how leadership styles impact communication and effectiveness, while also highlighting the importance of employee satisfaction with a leader's communication. Research also highlights and underscores the role of how digital tools are shaping the leadership experience in virtual work environments. This also highlights the need for leaders to be technologically knowledgeable and adapt to new changing technologies in the workplace. Ultimately, though, successful leadership is rooted in integrity, strategic communications, and servant-hearted principles such as servant leadership. As organizations continue transitioning to remote and hybrid models, leaders must remain adaptable, transparent, and above all else, Christ-centered in their guidance of their teams. These principles are irregardless of which leadership style a leader of a virtual team in a virtual work environment takes,